The windows lit up first, white hot, brighter than the sun. Then the wave hit. A soundless pressure like the world holding its breath slammed through the Texas evening and turned still air into a storm. Glass shattered 2 miles away. Houses folded in on themselves. A mushroom cloud bloomed above the town of West, and the sky turned the color of ash. It was April 17th, 2013, a Wednesday night. Just minutes before, the streets had been calm. People watched baseball on porch TVs. Children finished homework. At the nursing home, nurses pushed wheelchairs into the quiet hall. No one heard the countdown. No one saw the fuse. But inside the fertilizer plant, buried in steel bins and rusted walls, the fire was already crawling. It moved like it knew the place, feeding on years of shortcuts, on gaps in inspections, on silence. Smoke poured from the roof. The first fire trucks arrived. Sirens screamed. Neighbors stepped outside to watch. Then came the blast. It wasn't just an explosion. It was erasure. In a single second, the plant ceased to exist. A crater 30 feet wide opened where the storage silos had stood. The shockwave shattered every window in a 5-block radius. Bricks flew like bullets. The roof of the nearby apartment complex lifted, hung for a heartbeat in midair, then collapsed in a roar of dust and screams. The nursing home shook like a deck of cards. Ceilings caved in. Elderly patients were buried beneath rubble. The school next door cracked open. Homes up to a quarter-mile away were reduced to flaming wreckage, and the volunteers, they had no chance. 12 first responders were killed instantly. Firefighters, medics, town servants. They'd run toward the flames. They stood in its path. And then they were gone. Debris rained from the sky. Chunks of metal, wood, insulation. A truck tire landed in a playground. A twisted beam lodged in the steeple of a church. The blast registered as a 2.1 magnitude earthquake, felt in towns 15 miles out. More than 150 people were injured. Dozens hospitalized. Bodies pulled from the wreckage long after the smoke had cleared. For hours, the town burned. Cell service died. Roads were blocked. Rescue workers, those still standing, searched house to house by flashlight, calling names into the dark. The next morning, the smoke still curled above the ruins. Half the town was gone. The other half stood shaking, bloodied, barefoot in the streets. And that's when the questions began. The plant had stored 270 tons of ammonium nitrate, a compound so explosive it had been used in the Oklahoma City bombing. But no one in West knew. No warning signs, no risk map, no buffer zone. The school sat 550 feet away, the nursing home just 500, and the law allowed it. Because this was Texas, and fertilizer wasn't regulated like dynamite. It was regulated like soil. The company had failed to report how much ammonium nitrate they kept. They hadn't told DHS. Their last safety audit was nearly 30 years old. State inspectors hadn't stepped foot on site in over a decade, and no one had checked the firewalls, because there weren't any. When the case went federal, officials called it criminally negligent, but no one was charged. The plant had no sprinkler system, no security cameras, no blast shielding. It was cheaper that way. Rebuilding began before the bodies were buried, and the company that owned the plant quietly disappeared. Today, there's a memorial at the site, a wall of names etched into steel, a ring of bricks, blackened from the fire. But the hole, the real hole, wasn't the one left in the ground. It was what didn't change. 10 years later, thousands of facilities across the U.S. still store ammonium nitrate, still sit next to schools, still lack regulation, because the people who die in these disasters don't sit on boards. They don't write laws. They just live there. And then one night, they don't. Thank you for listening to Road to Ruins. Subscribe for more true stories where systems fail and people pay the price.